Hello and welcome to my channel. This is Adrian here and thank you for joining me on my digital art journey. So this is the first time I'm actually recording my voice here. Well, first time I'm hopefully successfully doing it because normally I don't like how it sounds and I end up just playing music of this stuff, but let's see if I can pull it off this time. For this video I created a sculpting blender, which I then took to Photoshop to finalize the entire scene around the character in there. But for the sculpt, I have decided to follow a tutorial by Brain Sculpts. Wait, Brain Sculpts. Hope I pronounce it right? I hate words, but in any case. But I will put the link in the description for his channel so you guys can see more of that because I won't be focusing a lot on that. But because I followed his tutorial, I created Zelda. And fortunately, I don't know a lot about Zelda since I did not really play the games, but hopefully in the future I will be able to play the games, but the main focus here will be on the photo bashing and digital painting that I always do. Let's not keep this going any longer and let's go on to the full video. Okay, so let's start talking about the sculpting here and what I've learned. First thing I can say is, one thing I have noticed is, when you work with something like this where you really don't have much idea of what you're doing, make sure you've got a lot of references. In fact, make sure you've got references even if you know what you're doing, because in the end, references always helps you. Trust me, it really does help. But if you really want to know more, go check out Brand's video and you will learn a lot more about the sculpting. The only other thing that I really can add is, for the texturing I follow Dicky's tutorials, or Dico's. Am I gonna suck at names the whole time with this video recording? With Dicko's tutorial on texturing, which I will also link down. It's an awesome tutorial, it helps a lot to get a nice detailed texture really quickly. We just leave this rest here. Nice time lapse so you guys can enjoy the entire sculpting process. And I'm back, and welcome back to those as well that have skipped the time lapse. So I know you guys exist. But yeah, let's hope most of you have watched the complete video because I can do of the watch time. Any case, let's continue now here with the concepting, where basically all I do is I use some references I've put aside. It's off screen, you guys, so that you guys can't see it and easy for me to look at while I'm working. I use those to come up with as many ideas as I can think of. And with these ideas, I don't really focus on the detail. I focus more on the layout and using rules like the rule of thirds and looking at the values of different sections and stuff like that to make sure I create something that looks as whole nice, even without small details. Even with the characters I put in, you guys can see I put a very rough outline of a character, more like a stick figure thing that I draw, that just represents, I can show me, this is where the character will be, and this is what it will look like as a whole composition. Because that is really all that matters. A golden rule of this that I've learned is that never go with your first idea, because your first idea is never your best. Come up with multiple ideas, and later on, you will find a perfect idea that is perfectly what you want and what you imagine. Now, the idea that I work on now will be the start of the final idea that I work with especially of that tree on the side, which I really like the idea of. So I took that and I just continued working on it, creating new ideas based around that, and started working a bit more on the lighting, the values, the other smaller details, still keeping it very rough so that I can get to the final concept of what the artwork will be like. And as soon as I've got that final concept, all that I will do is I will save it out as this separate image, which I will keep to the side while working on the final art piece, so I can keep on looking back at it as I'm working, so I can keep with that idea. But I will not stay strictly to it because, like I said, that concept is just an idea. So it's your beginning of the final thing where you're working towards, so you know what you are going to do, that has an idea of what will work completely. So as soon as that is done, I will move forward with the final artwork. But first, if you've got any questions on the artwork, on the process, anything like that, feel free to drop them down in the comments below. I will make sure to answer each one. And while you're there, why don't you hit subscribe and like on this video? It will really help me out a lot. So it's finally time where I can open up a new Photoshop file and create that concept as a final piece of art. And of course I will start by taking a render of that Zelda sculpt that I created and just put it in plus minus the same places if I had in that stock image. Or not the stock image, like I said I hate words, but rather in the same as the concept. There's the correct word. Okay, so let's continue now that I've finally got the correct words. And with that thing, I can work out exactly what the perspective is. So when I bring in the Photoshop stocks like the grass here and things like that, I can very easily and quickly just move them or distort them to the correct perspective that fits with the sculpt. And with the grass layer that you see that I just bring in, I will just go through the process of creating a mask of it, inverting that mask to hide everything, and then by using a rough texture paintbrush kind of thing, I'll just paint it back into the correct shape I want for that ground layer that she is standing on. Now it is important here, if you guys are using a similar process than what I am doing here, is when you do stuff like this, you don't have to stay exactly to your concept. You can change a bit as you continue, because you will see things that you can do better, all that stuff. Because of the colors and things like that, you do get that change in your perspective that will allow you to see more details and stuff like that that you can add to it. The main thing for you is just enjoy what you are doing. Because come on, we're making art. That's always fun. Now for this, basically how I'm aiming to do everything, it is very experimental for me. I've never done something like this before. But what I do is I basically put in my photo stock, and then I plan to do a lot, and I mean like a lot of overpainting to make it fit with the exact style that I'm looking for, where I use the photo stocks for the main texture of the piece. So next I will start with the foreground, where I found this stock image that I decided to use. And again, with the same method as before, where I use a masking to hide everything and then just paint back where I want it, I'm able to really experiment with this part exactly what I want. Since it's a small part, yes, it's in the front, but it's the smallest and easiest place for me to experiment with it, so that's where I did it. And what I found that worked for me very well here is basically use that as a background texture and paint over it, and then basically have that details from the photo texture still there to add some smaller details and stuff that's not so clearly visible, but it still adds some nicer, finer details that does cause some interest. Using that, I really can focus on the exact style that I want, and with the brush strokes and the photos just create nice texture, and I really do think it works quite well. And here's where I start with the mid-ground of this thing. Well, I start working with that technique I just experimented with, and really start playing around with that technique. First, of course, with a photo stock image, I play around with the blending styles and stuff like that. Before I start just adding stock images, masking out, painting them back in with a very rough texture brush, and I just continue like that until I get a nice texture that I really like and that seems like it can work. Honestly, when you are doing something like that where you just experiment around, having fun, just seeing what to do, don't worry about if something doesn't work. Really, all you have to do, if something doesn't work, like you will see a bit later where I found, you just go out, delete whatever it is, and continue working, trying some different things, and just keep on going. Working with experimenting like this, you learn some nice new techniques, and you really are able to try techniques and do stuff that you may have seen other people try and wanted to try yourself, or just see if you can do something different like what I'm doing here with a much more stylized kind of look. Just do it. Delete what doesn't work, move on, keep what works, and that really is a secret to expanding your skills above just looking what other people does as well. For example, over here you can see I bring in this flower stock because I thought some nice flowers will look nice. In the end it's just like, nah, it didn't work, I couldn't make it work. So what did I do? I just deleted it and threw it away. No problems at all. So in the end, I just ended up adding more photo stocks. I just felt that was another weird words moment, but yeah. I just added more photo stocks to add more textures and roughly painted them very patchy everywhere, and I just kept on working on like that and bringing some layers like the first grass layer back to the front to get that texture back after the overpainting that I've done, and I just continued working on like that. The foreground I was just decided, I'm gonna darken up a bit, then painting those tree bark or tree branches that you can see off the side so I can have a better idea of the layout and where everything is gonna look like in the end with all the colors, everything working like that. And finally it's time with me just continuing, because with that mid-ground, the ground area, something keeps on not looking right for me, so I just continued working on it, painting in more shadows to try to add more details and depths, and see if I can bring it more to life, more to the final picture that I envisioned when I created the concept and stuff like that. Still not happy with it, but realizing, listen, yeah, I need to move on and come back to it later. I went ahead, did a bit of color correction to all those stuff to bring it more to the color I'm looking at, so, and hoping that will work to create that final piece of work that I'm after. Of course, at this point during my whole painting process and everything like that, I've gotten a crash with Photoshop. Doesn't happen often, but when it does, it really isn't an awful time because I lost a lot of process. I've created new brushes which I lost and everything, but yeah, at least by doing something a second time over, you do end up doing it better again. But basically moving on here, I'm just using a big brush with a new layer set to multiply, just painting the foreground a bit darker and painting the background a bit lighter with a different layer set to lighting. And this really helps just to add a bit more depth to this ground area and make everything look a lot better as a whole, and it helps give you a sense of there's actually depth going on. And then in between the foreground, between the ground area and the sky, which I haven't added yet, I painted some fog in with a bit of white and stuff like that, just to help separate everything out and keep the different areas separate. It just helps making your piece looks a bit more alive and looks as if it has got a lot more depth in it. After that, like I said, I did create new brushes, which I lost. But with those new brushes, I used them to paint over again all the grassy and bushy areas with the new grass brushes that I've created just for this, and which I will use definitely in the future. And this was a point where I finally saw, like, yes, everything is coming together to what I wanted. Because from this point, I was really considering, like, nah, this whole piece is not going to be something that I'm going to be happy with. It's just going to be another thing that no one sees. But in the end, yeah, it's something I'm proud of. Just because of this grass brush that brought all the work with the details and everything together to that final style that I'm looking for. And now the sky. I found this beautiful image of a sunset that I wanted to use because from the beginning I envisioned this whole art piece having a sunset kind of look. So found this piece, and at first I just tried over painting by selecting a few colors and painting it over to get that stylized look, but it didn't work out so well. So after trying it a bit, I realized I just need to move on. Then that's when I tried the smudge tool with a texture brush with the smudge, and it works perfectly, just smudging all the sky smudging the colors a bit together and everything really helps creating that stylized painting look that I was after with this piece. If you ever need a scar like this, try it out. I really will recommend this. It's fast, it's quick, and it's really easy to do. Then after I've got that all sorted, I just need to finish up the sky by using a color dodger layer and painting the in back of yellow where the sun is, just to bring that detail back, because I did lose that with the whole smudging thing. And when that was done and everything looked perfect, I continued back to the tree to finish it all up. Now the tree, I started with for the leaf part, I started painting out with a green color where it will go. Nice and quick and easy, no worries there. All that, I went back to my photo stocks and just added more details to the trunk of the tree or branches, whatever, and overpainting it using normal, just selecting the color from the tree and a normal texture brush, just paint over it to create that painterly look with it so that it can fit in with the rest of the artwork. Unfortunately, from here, my footage got a bit lost on the rest of the tree, but it was basically the same process as everything else. Got some stock images of tree leaves, putting it over that area, removing everything except the tree leaves, and painting more, overpainting the shadows and the light to it, and also painting in the shadows and light to the character and the bark area of the tree with it sometimes. The tree, I must say, I'm not completely happy with the leaves area, but I've got a few ideas already to improve that for my next piece whenever I need to create trees like this again. Hopefully it will work out a lot better. But now we're at the last section here, where I just quickly added a camera raw filter to adjust the final settings. Must say I didn't do too much of the camera raw filter, the editing, but just a bit of enhancement, so to speak, of everything, just to make sure it looks a tiny bit better. Then after that I just created a title of a non-existent Zelda game, because like I said, I don't play Zelda yet, so I didn't want to upset anyone, so I just thought, I'll create my own title for a Zelda game and see how it will go and give it a kind of postery look. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, because here's the final art piece for you guys. Hit subscribe if you want to see any future work that I want to share with everybody. Thank you so much for watching. See you guys next time.